presentation about people who changed the world. Of course, we come from Sorina Private School. Please, our student, let's introduce.
I'm Manaf Balbisi.
شيراز الأوسي.
لؤي أرنبة.
جنى رضا.
It's okay.
شهد نصار. رانيا مقدام.
Okay. As I said, our presentation is about people who changed the world in many ways because of their radical ideas and instinctive inventions. We're going to start with Freud, the psychological section. Freud, speaking about Freud. Okay. Freud said a very important quote, which was, you don't have to be so much strive to eliminate the complexes in your life. You have to get into accord with them. So this is special quote said by Freud in that time meant a lot to them and made him a very special person. Of course, let's give you some information about Freud. Freud was born in 1856. He died in London in 1939. Of course, he came from a Jewish family. His father was a merchant, and he had two half-brothers, Emmanuel and Philip. And his mother was the same age of his half-brother. So imagine that his half-brother was the same age of his mother. And that later fueled him with some ideas. Okay? Of course, speaking about Freud, we cannot forget to speak about the distinctive components of the personalities. So, he identified the three components of the personality, including the id, the ego, and the superego. Speaking about the id, when we talk about the id, we have to focus on the pleasure according to the pleasure principle, because we have two main goals in the id. First of all, we have the seeking of the pleasure, and then we have the avoidance of the pain. So when we say id, means that we are focusing upon the pleasure. Okay, is that okay with you? Great. Next, the next component, the next very important component in our personalities is the ego. The ego, when we talk about ego, we mean the reality. So according to the principle of the reality, okay? It controls a higher mental process of reasoning and problem solving. So the ego is according to the reality. The last component in our personality, which is the superego. The superego, when we talk about the superego, we mean the rules, the values, and the moral things in our life. The rules that comes from maybe our school, our society, maybe the rules that comes from the childhood that our parents taught us. It means when we say superego, just remember the rules. Okay, so we have three components of the personality according to Freud. As he said, we have the id, the ego, and the superego.
May I ask you to redefine the superego?
Okay, as I said, when we talk about the superego, we are focusing on the rules. The rules maybe from your parents, from the childhood, what your parents taught you to do in your life, maybe your school, the morals, the social morals in our society, so the rules. Okay, the rules in our society. As I said, we have the values and the social morals in our society. We are focusing on the rules in this segment. Okay, of course, he had many other ideas, including love, admirations, and Oedipus complex. He talked about that. He also interpreted three levels of awareness. Three levels of awareness, which is the conscious, the preconscious, and the subconscious. Those are some of the most important ideas that Freud gave to the humanity. Okay, I finished. Now let's move to the sport field. We have Manaf to give us some information about that. Let's start, please.
Thank you for the interesting information.
Thank you. Okay. The slides. Of course, we are going to talk about Muhammad Ali Clay. Okay.
Muhammad Ali was born in January 17, 1942, Louisville, Kentucky. He died in June 3, 2016. His spouses were Loni Ali, Veronica Ali, Khalil Ali, and Sonji Roy.
Interesting.
Who is Muhammad Ali? He was an American professional boxer, activist, entertainer, and philanthropist, nicknamed the Greatest. He was widely regarded as one of the most significant and celebrated figures of the 20th century and as one of the greatest boxers of all time. His name before changing his religion. His name was Cassius Clay before he became a Muslim. What did he win? He won World Heavyweight Champion from Sonny Liston in major upset and many more. Muhammad and the military. In 1966, Ali refused to be drafted into the military, citing his religious beliefs and ethical opposition to the Vietnamese War. He was found guilty of draft evasion, so he faced 5 years in prison and he was stripped of his boxing titles.
Interesting.
Ali's life outside the ring. Outside the ring, Ali was a musician, where he received 2 Grammy nominations. He was also a writer, actor, releasing 2 autobiographies. What happened after he retired? Ali retired boxing to focus on his religion and activism. He remained an active public figure globally, but in his later years made fewer public appearances as he got medical problems. And now we're going to move on to the architectural field with Rania.
Okay, before we move to Rania, please let me interrupt you. I need to ask you a question. In your point of view, why do you think that he gained this title? I mean, the greater.
Because he was regarded as one of the most significant and celebrated figures of the 20th century, and he was one of the greatest boxers in the world.
Interesting, useful information, Manaf. Thank you for your efforts. And now let's move to Rania.
Thank you. This is Zaha Hadid. Zaha Hadid is an engineer. She was born October 31st in 1915 in Baghdad, and she died in Miami, Florida, in March 31, 2016. She is an architect known for her radical deconstructive designs, and she was the first woman to be awarded the Pritzker Architecture Prize in 2004.
Yes.
Her buildings, she designed a lot of buildings, magnificent buildings all around the world, like the Hajar Aliyev Center, Baku in Azerbaijan, and the Museum of Contemporary Art and Architecture in Rome. This is her first project.
Interesting buildings, by the way. Amazing.
This is her project in Baku, the center.
So you mean the first one?
Yes, this is her first project.
Okay.
Yes, and this is the center in Azerbaijan.
Okay, and the last one?
This is a famous one for her. And we have, yes, this is a hotel and an office in Dubai.
Mm-hmm.
And this is the Garoza Bridge Pavilion.
You mean this one?
This is a bridge, yes.
Yes.
And her projects were about curves and shared angles. And,
Yeah.
Which transform the perspective of the viewer.
Yeah, can I interrupt you? Speaking about the amazing buildings, by the way, she is the only woman that we want to talk about in our presentation. Speaking about Zaha Hadid, and of course, all of you know that we are speaking about important people all around the world. Why did you choose to speak about her?
Because her buildings makes you feel that you are living in the future, and because she was the first woman to win the Pritzker Architecture Prize.
Yeah, exactly.
In 2004. Her designs were about natural elements, and she was nicknamed the Queen of Curves.
Yeah, exactly. Thank you so much. Very useful information.
And now let's move to the political section with Shiraz.
Appreciate these beautiful ideas and about Zaha Hadid. And now we're going to talk about the racism. The racism is the other side of slavery. Racism is about taking over humans' rights to make him worthless and because of something he didn't choose, like his skin color, the place he was born in, and his religion, and the place he born in. Through the ages, many people tried to resist the racism until a hero appeared called Martin Luther King, who was born in the wrong place at the wrong time in the United States at 1929. At this time, the United States was having racism against the black people. The kid's Martin's dream was to play with his white friend. His dream was to learn, to study, to be something big in the future. But the dream, just a dream in his imagination.
Yes.
But he really did it, and he did his dream. And he also took a Nobel Prize about it, of peace.
So he achieved his dreams?
Yes, he achieved his dreams. And because he could change the look of white people to black people.
Amazing.
Martin died because of his dream, as he always say, tell him about the dream, Martin.
Yeah.
And until he been assassinated in 1968.
He was assassinated.
By a gunshot from his opponents and enemies.
Yes.
We should stick with our dreams and fight for it.
Oh, final conclusion, a very amazing conclusion that we have to stick in our dreams. I'm going to ask you the following question. Why do you think, of course from your own point of view, why do you think that he was assassinated? Maybe we don't know the real people behind this action, but why do you think that he was assassinated?
Maybe because he was against the law. He tried to make the racism gone forever.
Yes.
And he tried to raise up the name of black people in the US.
Exactly, amazing.
Okay, now we're going to go to the philosophy section with Junal.
Yes.
Interesting information.
Yeah, sure. Interesting information.
Plato. Who is Plato? Born in 428 BC in Athens, Greece, died at the age of 80 at Athens, Greece as well. He was an Athenian philosopher during the classical period. In ancient Greece, he was the founder of the Platonist school and academy, the first institution in the Western world. Now we're going to talk about some of his notable work.
Okay, first, did you say something about Platonism?
I did.
Okay, could you explain, because this expression is very new, let's say, to us, at least.
Platonism is the philosophy of Plato.
Yes.
And the philosophical systems are derived off of it, though contemporary philosophers, or let's say Platonists, don't necessarily accept all of Plato's ideas, but
Because he had some radical ideas. Do you think so?
I do.
Yes.
But that didn't change the fact that Platonism had a huge effect on the Western thought.
Okay, so can we say that Platonism is a kind of philosophical school or something? As simple as it is?
Yes.
We can say it's philosophical school. Yes, continue please.
And some of his notable work is Crito. Crito is a book that talks about the dialogue between Socrates and his wealthy friend Crito. They were talking about justice, injustice, and the appropriate way to deal or respond to injustice.
Interesting.
It was after the imprisonment of Socrates. The second important work of his is Phaedrus. Phaedrus is also a dialogue between Plato, Plato's protagonist, and Socrates and Phaedrus. The third important
work
of his was Euthyphro. Euthyphro is a Socratic dialogue between Euthyphro, and Socrates. Now we're going to talk about notable students of his: Aristotle, Eudoxus of Cnidus, Heraclitus Ponticus, Philip of Opus, Speusippus, and Xenocrates. Now, some of his notable ideas were Platonic philosophy.
According to the school, right?
Yes.
Yes.
Innatism, theory of forms, and idealism. Now,
Interesting.
moving on from the philosophy field to the electrical field with غيرت.
Thanks for this nice information. We're gonna talk about Nikola Tesla.
Yes, sure.
He was born in 10th of July, 1856 in Smeđan, Croatia, and died in 7th of January, 1943 in New York City, USA.
Yes.
Who is Nikola Tesla? Nikola Tesla is an Serbian-American inventor, electrical engineer, and mechanical engineer, and the futurist best known for his contributions to the design of the modern alternating current system, which means electrical supply system.
Yes.
Now we're going to talk about Nikola's some inventions that changed the world, like Tesla coil and alternating current.
1 minute, please. Did you say Tesla coil? Could you please define this expression?
Yes, of course.
And the uses, we need to understand something from the definition.
Yes,
Okay.
of course. Tesla coil is an electrical resonant transformer circuit, and it's used to produce high voltage, low current, and high frequency alternating current electricity.
Interesting.
Now we're gonna see some pictures about Tesla's inventions.
You mean those?
Yes.
The Tesla coil.
Now we're gonna move to, finally we're gonna move with Shahad Nassa. We're gonna move to the literary section with Shahad Nassa.
Thank
You're
you.
going to be the final one, Shahad Nassa? Okay, with the literary section. Go ahead,
Thank
please.
you. That was an amazing job. Your children are not your children. They are the sons and daughter of the life's longing for itself. This is a famous quote by Gibran Khalil Gibran, who is a Lebanese-American writer, philosophical essayist, poet, and artist. Gibran was born in January 1883 in Lebanon, and he was raised in a poor family. At a young age, Gibran immigrated with his mother and siblings to the USA. Then he enrolled at a school in Boston where his teacher discovered his creative abilities. After that, he in 1904, his literary career started when he first published an article in a newspaper where a lot of readers liked it, and that led him to write more and more about it. And after that, he started writing books, such as The Broken Wings and The Prophet, which was translated into 100 different languages.
Yes, amazing job. Yes, The Prophet.
In 1908, he traveled to Paris to study art and learn French, and in 1931, he died in New York because of crisis of the liver at a young age which was 48.
Amazing, by the way. So let me ask you something.
Yes.
We all know that he is exceptional character. We all know that. But to you, why did you choose to speak about him in this section?
Because what made him special was his way in writing. He had a unique style, which was about strength, which was characterized by strength, rebellion against tradition.
Radical ideas, maybe?
Yeah, and he was a key figure for romantic because he also used another.
A romantic style.
Yeah.
Interesting.
His another type of style was about exploring love, passion, and also enjoying life.
Amazing.
Thank you.
At the end of this presentation, I want to thank you so much. Thank you, all of you. Amazing job. Thanks to our school, Sorina Private School. And at the end, I want to tell you something very important. It's true that we talk about amazing and important people who changed the world. But I believe, at least in my point of view, that every one of us can change the world, at least from his own position. If you believe in yourself, you can do something very important that can maybe change the world. So just believe in yourself.